All right, so I'm at it again, but this time I'm using 25 gauge wire. So I think the 25 gauge wire, the one I used on this guy for a pickup coil, is much better than the 23 or the 21. And I'm going to do it. I'm doing it using my coil winding machine, but I'm still doing it by hand very laboriously. And I'm going to put separators between um, each layer, and I'm printing out a new iron PLA cord. This time with the film with the laminations running horizontal the long way, so it'll run down like this. And I also have, which should be showing up any moment now, copper PLA and conductive PLA, which is made out of some sort of a carbon fiber, but it's conductive. So what I may do is on the strips that I'm printing out now, I only have enough. I don't have a lot of iron PLA left. So I've printed out 10 strips that'll fit inside here, and I'm going to print out 10 strips of either the copper or the conductive, and I may do a combination, and I'll do every other one and so forth and so on. But yeah, this is going to be a killer pickup coil, and I think this 25 gauge wire is a perfect gauge, and this is laborious, to say the least. It takes forever because it's a lot different than doing the 21 or the 23 gauge, which is much thicker and a lot easier to do by hand. Anyway, hopefully this copper PLA will be in here shortly, and I can show you that process. Stay tuned. Oh my God, this is so tedious. I have got to figure out how to build an automated, it doesn't even have to be automated, it has to be powered, and it has to have some kind of mechanism that allows the wire to get laid down in a layer. And I can't use the paper. The paper might work for Sky, but it just doesn't work for me. It's too pliable. I need something stiffer. And if I do build an electronic one, I'll have to have a foot pedal, obviously, because I want two hands free. And I want it so even if I can't get the mechanism to go back and forth like that, if I just set it up so that I have the foot pedal and set it up in such a way where, I don't know, I got to figure it out. I've seen guys on YouTube, I've seen them build them. I haven't seen one that I want to replicate, so I'll probably just end up making one of my own design, borrowing from a couple of other designs. Let me slide this over. All right, let me get back to it. Got plenty of wire. It's just so tedious, but it's working out. All right, stay tuned. Man, oh man, I just averted a major nightmare. I had wrapped a layer, put the paper around it, and wrapped another layer. And I was almost done with that later when I realized that I had a wire that was running on the outside edge of the coil housing. It wasn't in, and I was hoping it was on the first one, but it turned out to be on the layer below that. But I was able to get it unwound back on the coil here. Oh, anyway, stay tuned. Man, that thing that happened to me before, I did it again 3 more times. This is probably the worst coil I've ever wound, but it's done. Nice and heavy. Now I'm just waiting on uh, the copper PLA and the PLA that's conductive. Oh, I'm so glad that's done. Worst coil I ever did, but it'll still work. Stay tuned. So I finally got the copper infused PLA, which they claim it has 25% copper in it. So we'll see. I've seen some other reviews saying that there's no way. And then here is the conductive PLA. So I'm going to take it out of the wrapper here and see if it's really conductive. And again, it's protopasta. And it prints just like the regular PLA. So let me take it out and see if it's conductive. Hold tight. So it's definitely conductive. I got it set to the milliohm range. It doesn't, like when I try to do the actual beep test, it doesn't do that, but they say that it's more conductive after it's printed out. So yeah, it's definitely conductive, so we'll see. This is going to be cool. Ciao. All right, so I'm printing out, here, let me show you. So iron, copper, iron, copper, iron, copper, iron, copper. It's kind of cool. I don't know what it's going to do, but I have enough to print out a couple of more of the iron PLA, and then I'm going to print out a bunch of the conductive carbon. So I'm not really sure. I guess it's just carbon that's in there that makes it conductive. And I'm going to use that to cap this block all the way around. Stay tuned. All right, so here's the coil. It's done. I put a layer of lacquer on it, resin. And it's just a single coil. And here's the laminations in there. So now they're not set in there. I got some more printing to do, but I found out some weird stuff about some of the filaments. So the metal filament prints perfectly, no issues at all. But I think what it was doing, it was leaving some filament behind inside the hot end. Then I went to print the copper filled, which can't really have that much copper in it because the metal filament, the iron filament, when you bend it, it snaps. It's very brittle. Same thing with the black carbon filament that is conductive. You bend it, it snaps. This copper color filament that's supposed to have 25% copper, when you bend it, it just bends. It doesn't snap. So that's not a really big deal. But then I went to print the copper, and that printed okay. But then I went to print the conductive filament, and that wouldn't print at all. And it turns out that my hot end was getting clogged. So I had to replace the hot end nozzle. And yeah, I'm not going to try printing the conductive stuff. I'll have to look up on how to print it because it kind of prints like, I think it prints a little bit like ABS. It says it prints very much like PLA, but I didn't have any luck with it. So I will, let me take this out of here. All right. So I'm going to bind these together. Actually, I need to, oops. Yeah, I'm going to put copper on the outer end. Not that it really matters. I'm basically just using it as spacers because I didn't have enough of the the iron PLA left, and I do believe it'll still work. Anyway, let me get it together and show you what that looks like. Stay tuned. Yeah, another thing that I noticed about the um, conductive PLA, it was doing a lot of clicking, a lot of skipping, where and I think that's because the nozzle was clogged. Now it's printing beautifully, but even before, when I was trying to print the copper, it was skipping until I changed out the nozzle. So now it's printing good. And so I'm going to print out, I think, two more of, or one more of these coppers, um, lattice or copper slats to go on the border, and then I'll glue it all together. Stay tuned.